Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 362. And just like the Doctor, this podcast can never die. We don't have the concentration. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys? And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How was you guys' Christmas this week?
It was good.
It was good.
Very busy. Very busy.
Very
Did
busy.
you get lots of toys?
Quite
Yes.
a few. Yeah, it was 4 Christmases in less than 24 hours. So
Wow.
Christmas Eve night with my mom, and then Christmas morning with just the 3 of us. And then after that, going over to Sarah's parents, and after that, going over to my dad's, and then coming home and watching Who.
The benefit to being a grandparent is you are in charge of the schedule, and you say, yeah, everybody can come over here. So
Yeah,
we just did them all at once.
Next year, we're thinking of just saying, okay, you come to us. How about you, Glenn?
Yeah, we spent Saturday at our house. We hosted Holly's family, so just Christmas all day long. And then Saturday, we spent the day over at my folks and did kind of like just our family Christmas. Opened some gifts there, played some games, and then we hit the road and went to Wichita Saturday night. Ate at Denny's for our annual Christmas Eve dinner tradition. First year we have eaten at a Denny's out of town on Christmas Eve, so that was kind of different. But it was a Denny's. We stayed in Wichita and we drove over the next morning on Christmas Day to my Uncle Ed's house, and my dad's whole big family got together. Did you guys get anything exciting? Any Who gifts?
I got a beautiful painting from my sister. She didn't paint it herself, but she bought a beautiful painting of Peter Capaldi with his
It is
hand
a beautiful
outstretched.
painting.
And
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
it's a 16 by 20. It's very nice. And then Doctor Who Flex, along with Dalek Invasion of Earth, belt buckle, which is this really cool brass belt buckle.
A Doctor Who belt buckle?
Yeah, I'll have to grab it and show you afterwards.
Okay.
Sean got me
Oh, that's right. You had one
some
other
very
Who
cool ugly Christmas sweater Doctor Who mugs. And Glenn got me Batman Flex.
My only Who Christmas item this year came from Sean, which was the Genesis of the Daleks LP, long play record for it was the Record Store Day 2016 exclusive, and it's got the blue colored vinyl. It's really sharp looking. So, and then Keith, knowing my love of infographs, got me the Star Wars Super Graphic, a visual guide to a galaxy far, far away, and it's in the same vein as Who Graphica, but it's Star Wars.
I got some lovely geek gifts from my friends here. Glenn got me Firefly Flux, and Keith got me a Star Trek jigsaw puzzle, which I love, both of those, so I'm very excited by that. I got, hands down, the coolest geek gift in a really, really long time. Mel got me a Star Wars shirt. Actually, I have 2. I've got one that's the Last Jedi logo, and I've got one that's like this weird, it's a comic book cover, but it's Vader, and he's all doing this, but it's been like almost tie-dyed out. And it's cool because other than the Force Awakens shirt that I bought at the theater when Force Awakens came out, I haven't owned a Star Wars shirt since I was like 6.
Oh, wow.
And what's odd is I had mmade that comment because we were going to go see, Last Jedi. I was like, I don't have a shirt to wear. She goes, you don't? I was like, no. Well, I mean, I've got this one. I'll wear my Force Awakens shirt, but I don't have one. She goes, how do you not own a Star Wars shirt? I was like, I know, right? I just don't have one. And then these, opened them up, and I was so excited. And I was like, yeah, I have Star Wars shirts. And somebody was listening, and she goes, no, I had those before you said anything.
Oh, wow.
I said, really?
I'll be darned.
So I'm thrilled to finally have it. I didn't wear it tonight,
cool.
naturally, but I'm thrilled to finally own a Star Wars shirt again.
Very cool.
Nice.
And then I got the Bob Ross pop figure. So that was my other And my mom was the dear, and she got me some film equipment so that I can continue to be awesome. That's always a good thing.
It is always a good thing.
Do you guys do anything else besides Christmas stuff?
No, not really. What do we got in the news, Keith?
Glad you asked, Glenn. Keith, what's in the news?
We had some disappointing news this week. Not very happy news. Unfortunately, Alex Kingston has had to cancel her appearance at Planet Comic-Con due to filming commitments.
Aww.
So that's too bad.
Anybody remember I said a few weeks ago when we announced Alex Kingston that I wasn't going to hold my breath because this happened before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She hopes to come back next year.
I don't hold it against her. I know that those kind of things happen, but,
Maybe it means she's coming back to Doctor Who.
Fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me.
And then Li Who 6 is not going to happen next year. Although no plans have been made beyond 2018, they are going to reevaluate their opportunities going forward. So there's a possibility of it coming back in 2019, but right now, Li Who is taking a break.
And they are citing some of the big industry cons that are kind of oversaturating the market, and a lot of cons in that area that do tend to draw from or away from them. So, and I can understand that. I mean, we're really kind of in that type of atmosphere and era now where kind of the cons, the big ones that can bring the big names in, are kind of overshadow the small intimate ones. But hopefully the Doctor Who ones that are remaining will still continue to thrive.
Yeah. And the fan
and good
community,
luck to them in 2 years if they can pull it back off.
Yeah. And the fan community in Long Island is still continuing with their monthly meetups and watch-alongs and viewing activities and all that sort of stuff. And there's a Long Island TARDIS that's going to make appearances in the area. So the presence isn't going away. Just the convention is put on hold at the moment.
Hopefully it will be back and back in full force with a vengeance when 2018 or 2019 rolls around, as opposed to having the wilderness years con style. Because they're just going on hiatus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys have to come back because I haven't made it up to Li Who yet. So let's just you don't get to cancel the con until I've been. That's sorry, but that's the reality of it.
That's it for news.
All right. Well,
other than a certain episode aired.
Right. Do we have any feedback?
We do have some feedback from Holly.
Did you want me to read that?
I can.
I don't care one way or the other.
She says, "Hey guys,
okay, go.
Hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. What can I say about this Christmas special? I loved it. The scenery and special effects were awesome. We got some more insight into the Time War, and it was nice not having a big bad to face in an episode. Loved the nod to the Brigadier's family. The sass between the 12th and the First Doctor was just perfect, and now I know the War Doctor was channeling his inner First Doctor when he ran into 10 and 11. Love the introduction of Jodie Whittaker as the next Doctor. Can't wait for her first outing. I'll wrap it up here. Hope you all have a happy new year. Holly from Wisconsin."
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, Holly. And of course, you can send us feedback by going to our website, travelingthevortex.com, and fill out the Send Us Feedback tab, or send it directly to feedback@travelingthevortex.com.
Well, let's move on to our reviews. We're going to do the Universe story first.
Let me pull that up then.
Is that the Case of the Missing Fairy? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
The Case of the Missing Fairy, from the classic era of Doctor Who, Lethbridge Stewart, by Steven Walton. Well, he's Steven Walton on the cover and Steve Walton on the inside, so I guess we're covered either way.
Either way, yeah.
I don't have the synopsis.
Maybe he just goes by Steve.
It could be.
Keith's looking for the synopsis.
I'm trying to find it. I don't think they gave us one.
They may not have. They sometimes don't for the shorts.
No.
It's a story set before the 1980 section of the story Maudwin Undead, and it features the former Brig. Lethbridge Stewart is teaching maths.
Well, he's still the Brig. He's just retired.
Okay.
The Brig retired.
And there's a missing tree topper.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed this story.
I did too. It's a cute story, especially from the idea that it's very Christmassy, in the sense that there's a fairy on top of the tree at the school that he teaches at now that has gone missing, and there's one instructor who's quite zealous in his pursuit to find the
with good cause.
Yeah, well, you do kind of find out. He does. He seems a bit eccentric over this zeal to find the perpetrators of the theft, the alleged theft.
Mr. Gray.
However, Mr. Gray. However, you kind of think, okay, this guy's you're kind of with Lethbridge Stewart. Okay, it's just a tree topper. What could be significant about this? And then as they lay it out, you kind of understand that it was his wife's, and she's since passed, and she was very dear to the school because she also worked at the school, and you get the little warm fuzzy of, oh yeah, okay, they need to find this.
It's what's great about it is it's one of those. It's a story where we haven't gotten much of his time as a teacher, and it's just. It totally feels like it's one of those stories that would actually happen. A kid would break us or steal a ferry, and they'd call in the old brigadier to come help investigate because that's what he used to do. And the fact that he's so dismayed about doing it because he used to do so much bigger things is kind of a bit funny and a bit sad at the same time.
I think it's kind of neat that it steps away from any sort of otherworldly influence or supernatural influence. It really comes down to be a heist mystery. I mean, that's simply what it is. I like the fact that the Mr. Gray gets very into the interrogation and bringing each of the students, because they have six students, I believe it is, who were last seen in the area before the ferry goes missing, and he brings them in and they do the interrogation style with the bright lamp and kind of the good cop bad cop routine, although they don't really do the brigadier wonders, if you will. But the headmaster is the one that puts the brigadier in this investigation with Mr. Gray because of his, as you said, with his time with UNIT and his experience in being able to look into things like this. But I kind of feel that it's also sort of the headmaster giving Lethbridge Stewart something to kind of maybe grow in his character as well that he doesn't expect, and I think he does from this, which I think was pretty cool too. The brigadier even learning and growing as a character later in life. I thought that was neat.
It's a nice reminder that, as you said, there wasn't an alien influence, and not everything in the Brig's life is going to be an alien influence. It's nice to have these stories every once in a while where it's just an average, everyday event.
I think the author also paints the boys that are suspects in this as really kind of neat characters. And the fact that we're getting into spoiler territory here because we don't do these without spoilers if they've been out. And this one's been out for a week or so. But they do get into the situation where it really doesn't end up being one person, but it also doesn't end up being a theft. That it ends up being a series of situations where they're all actually kind of covering for each other. And I think that plays out really well too. And I won't go too far into what happened. Maybe that would be way into spoiler territory. But I think it's really cool that all of these boys are involved in some way as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's just good. It's a nice little interlude, and I quite enjoyed it.
Sean, you've been rather quiet.
It was okay. All of the things that you guys said are true. It just didn't grab me. I think the same way that it was a fine little story, and while I agree that I am pleasantly surprised when we don't have a supernatural turn, this one felt almost blown out of proportion with, wow, nothing's happening. It's just, and you get to the end and there's the nice little resolution, and it's kind of like, okay. I mean, I kind of sided with the brig. It was like, all right, moving on. Just nothing to see here.
I love the fact that at the very end he gets given another similar assignment.
And he disappears.
And sneaks off.
Yeah. I thought that was a little maybe too much. I appreciate it for the humor of the stamp that it was putting on the end, but I thought that was a little bit
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe just tonally. I mean, I don't mind that the Brigadier does not have to be all blood and thunder, every single time, nor does he have to be the stiff upper lip break. But the humor of it seemed almost like it was being written for a different show that he had stumbled into. I mean, it kind of almost felt like it was a Sarah Jane adventure versus a Lethbridge Stewart adventure. And he seemed pretty bewildered and bemused by the whole proceeding. And
I kind of got that impression from the beginning of Maud Went Undead, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I thought it fit the tone of the beginning of Maudwin when he was at the school.
But I think Maudwin has some additional elements to it that kind of go toward explaining why he's... I don't know. Maybe that ties into it, but... I don't want to say anything bad about it. It's not that it was a horrible story. It wasn't. It was a little, 20-page story set at Christmas in which not much happened. Okay. It just didn't grab me the way it did you guys.
That's fine.
I'm interested to see what he says about our next review, which will be Twice Upon a Time.
2 doctors stranded in a forbidding snowscape, refusing to face regeneration. A British army captain, seemingly destined to die in the First World War, but taken from the trenches to play his part in the Doctor's story. In the final chapter of the 12th Doctor's epic adventure, he must face his past to decide his future. Along the way, he realizes the resilience of humanity, discovering hope in his darkest frozen moments. It is the end of an era, but the Doctor's journey is only just beginning.
Bum, bum, bum.
Talking about another story that nothing happens.
Yeah.
But I don't care that nothing happened because I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great send-off for Capaldi. It didn't have a big climactic action. I
like that it didn't have that.
I did too. I sort of like the fact, I sort of was bewildered a bit by the fact that we chose to tie maybe a loose end with Rusty up without really tying a loose end. I mean,
it was kind of we always wondered after that episode of where was he.
It implies that Moffat had something else to do with him. So when you get to this point, and it's almost like he threw him back in to say, "Well, I didn't do anything with Rusty, so I better throw him in."
I'll go one further. I think it was Gatiss.
It might have been
because he wrote Into the Dalek, didn't he?
Yeah, it might have been.
So I think Moffat.
No, Gatiss didn't write.
Did he write that? I thought he did.
No, it was.
It wasn't Moffat though. It was
Phil Ford, and Stephen Moffat.
Oh yeah. I think he had a hand in all that.
I'm still going to say it was Gatiss.
Not the one that he had tagged.
He wasn't in every single episode, but he was in a lot.
I still think it was Moffat. Probably had the framework built, and then went, I don't know where to go with this. And Gatiss said, "Bring Rusty back." Certainly,
that happens. I think as a writer, you have a lot. I mean, we've talked about some of the loose ends that still haven't been tied up in Moffat's era. Yeah, I don't know why everybody. That's not a. Anyway, so they didn't have to go to anything where with Rusty, although the episode does imply that they would maybe do something later with Rusty. So I think that was kind of a neat nod that hey, here's Rusty.
Well, and it was such a nice callback to the beginning of Capaldi's run.
Yeah,
I mean it was his second episode.
Very second episode. Yes.
So it was just a really nice kind of tying the whole beginning and the end together.
It also gave him that moment where it was something that the first Doctor recognized. Yeah, so that it wasn't necessarily a clockwork robot or something that he hadn't seen yet.
I think they missed a trick, though, in advertising this thing, because I think that, although I don't think anybody didn't expect Jenna Coleman to come back, but there was that rumor that they kind of didn't really qualify that Jenna Coleman was coming back. Remember they said Jenna Coleman coming back, and then that was kind of dropped because it wasn't official, and it never got confirmed. And then, so I thought they missed a trick they could have advertised this as somebody, from Peter Capaldi's first season as the Doctor coming back, and blah, 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 just made a big deal about it, or somebody from his past coming back. And then when the reveal would have been Rusty, everybody go, "What? This is who's coming back?" That could have been cooler. That, hey, no, actually.
Moffat's greatest trolling ever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he so could have done
Go out on a bang.
But, I think that illustrates how tired he is.
Because he would have done that previously.
Yeah. I like structurally how it takes place in really a moment in the end of 10th Planet, where time has been frozen. Yes. The concept is the fact that because 2 doctors, two versions of himself, are ready to call it quits, are ready to die,
But I got the impression, more importantly, everything stopped because the first Doctor was ready to do that.
Yes, but it
caused a paradox.
What blinks
because
out
both
the
of them were there.
that's
Yes.
just it. What blinks out the issue is the fact that the 12th Doctor had ended up landing there where the first Doctor was, and it caused the issue. Which fortunately they were both there, because I obviously, to me it's a bit circular, because I think that this always happened. I mean, this is
Yeah.
I'm kind of that. I subscribe to that. This is something that always was meant to happen, and so I was really intrigued by the fact that it's really kind of a moment in time, and it was between the time that the Doctor left the moon base or the base and Antarctic base. Sorry, not moon base. Crossing my shows. Leaving the Antarctic base and going to the TARDIS, and I had kind of hoped that that's when it had happened, because it made the most sense, and it kind of set that up in the final episode of the season this year, that's when this was happening. So I thought that was really cool. I liked the concept of this future race of basically heaven. I mean, they come back, they take people from the point where they're about to die, and they preserve their memories and then return them to that point without their even knowing, and preserve their memories on. I thought that was a neat little concept. It's a little high-minded, I think, but I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, it's no different than the extraction chamber.
No, certainly.
So it's kind of a similar idea that Moffat had used.
Certainly is.
And improved on, I think, in this instance.
And especially when it's revealed, and he goes, there's no bad guy. I don't know what to do. There's no bad guy. I thought that was a neat little section there. So I like the concept of what was it called? The testimony. I love the concept of the testimony. I thought that was kind of cool. I thought David Bradley did an awesome job as the first Doctor. He didn't copy William Hartnell, but he emulated him in such a way that you believed that he was the first Doctor. That was terrific. The setup of the episode, it was so meta, and I'm okay with it by saying 7,400 some episodes, or 700 so episodes, 709 episodes earlier.
Ago. Yeah.
Previously
on Doctor Who. 709 episodes.
Yeah, I
ago.
thought that was so neat. And using the clips,
the actual footage
from that,
and then doing it in the end when the first Doctor gets
and
back in his time stream,
finally getting to see in official canon the regeneration, because as we know in the 10th Planet they animated that in order to keep the flow.
Same with Power of the Daleks,
but they have always had that regeneration thanks to a Blue Peter clip that got sent off, and so thousands of Doctor Who fans that never got to see that before. I mean, we've seen it because it's been clips on specials and things like that. But we're talking about a new era of Doctor Who fans as well. Get to see that regeneration for the first time within the continuity and canon of Doctor Who, and I think that was really cool.
I'm so glad that they handled his regeneration so well. In the fact of it's just a very subtle effect on the hands, not overly glowy.
Yep.
And then the fact that they didn't recreate it, that they just dissolved back to the black and white was perfect.
Well, and even in the black and white footage of the regeneration, it does
glow.
brighten out and glows like that. So it still fits within that look that we still have as well. So I do like the again, another callback to all the various Doctors and the little globes and companions and things like that. That was kind of neat, through the different lives, the memories. And I absolutely shed a tear of joy when he got to remember Clara. When that was a nice touch. That was just such a nice touch. I just so enjoyed that so much.
I've been on record of how soured I have been by Clara, and so when she showed up, I wasn't too surprised, but I thought it was a very nice touch. I actually kind of got more excited that Nardole came back. So that shows how much of a switch I've done on Nardole since Dr. Mysterio.
And even though they're all, and Bill kept driving this point, even though they're all just memories of them, it's still them. It's still them because it's everything that they were. So that Sean's being quiet. So
that means Clara actually went and died.
We're gonna get.
That's what I took away from that.
Yeah, at some point in time in the far distant.
She finally did what she was supposed to right away.
Yeah, she finally went back to that point. Sean, you're being awful quiet.
I'm of two minds on this one. All of the meta fan service wonderful bits I loved, and I loved them because they were meta fan service. I loved the way it was constructed at the open, that we even started with the episode clip and then went to the widescreen shot and the morph from Hartnell to Bradley. I thought was really cool and really well done. I love the interaction between Capaldi and Bradley as the gritchy doctors when they always get together, and the egos, and that was all great. I thought David Bradley did a very, very great job of emulating Hartnell without aping Hartnell. It was kind of a fine line. I liked the story, that there wasn't a big bad. Everything you guys have said I agree with. I have some issues though, and I've seen it twice now, and I was hoping that on the second watch that I'd be able to maybe just gloss over. And what I've come to decide is this is, for me, this was Christmas. And you know how when Christmas comes and you open the stockings and you got candy, and so you eat some of the candy, and then maybe there's a meat and a cheese tray, so you eat the meat and cheese tray, and then there's Christmas cookies, and so you eat the cookies, and you kind of go on, you just graze all day long, and then you get toward the end of it and you're kind of like, I need something real. That's what this episode was. It was just kind of stuffing all day long of the sweet and the sugary and the candy and all those things that I love, but it had nothing of any real substance for me. And I feel bad saying this, but change and not a moment too soon. I'm so glad that this is the last Moffat, because it feels kind of like just that sugar on top cherry capstone to this flavorful dessert that I'm just tired of. And I feel
to
really
some extent,
weird saying
I can
that.
see what you said, what you mean, because it kind of does feel like Moffat didn't necessarily want to come back for the Christmas episode. We weren't sure if, when they announced that he was leaving, if Christmas was included in this.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like he's like, I've told all the stories I can tell. That's why we kind of get a story where there isn't much meat and not a lot happens.
Right.
It's because of that, though, that I maybe went into this a little different, because I almost went in expecting that this was going to be, and it turns out to be, what was Russell T. Davis's 19-minute say goodbye to everybody in The End of Time.
Yeah.
This was an hour of that same kind of tone.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
And so I liked that, but I think maybe I was more prepared for that. I didn't feel like there was going to be any big story. And in fact, when they introduced the testimony, the interface or whatever it is of the testimony, the clear people,
The glass people were cool.
The glass people.
Look of them and
It was cool.
Was really cool.
But when they started going that route, I thought maybe I was wrong feeling that way. I thought, they're going to go a direction where there is going to be some sort of epic grand adventure. And there's a lot of little action scenes. I thought it was really cool where they, he drops the chains on the TARDIS and they all jump and grab onto it and write it down. That was neat. And even the where are we when he goes to the planet where Rusty's hanging out. And all the little mutated.
Did you guys pick up that those were Daleks?
Oh,
right away?
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because he even calls them the...
They mutated a little bit, he said.
Well, I forget what he says, that it's the planet of the... And he the name he uses basically is... I can't remember it now, but it struck me immediately as... They've shed their armor. Or,
They're out of their shell.
And then he says they've come out of the shells, and I went,
Yeah, I kind of suspect.
my
heavily suspect.
Okay, to be honest, my first thought was Dream Crab. And
that's what it looked like
when the one
first.
jumps on it.
That's what I thought. And then I went, no, these are Daleks.
But see, it starts to go down that path, and I thought, maybe this is going to be some grand. Maybe this isn't just a postscript, because I kind of went into it expecting a postscript but then I was much relieved. I actually was very relieved in the fact when he says, "What? This is fine. There's no bad guy." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is good." I just and Bill's there, and then you start to trust her, and you really think that, well, okay, maybe she's not a copy. The Doctor, he's being suspicious for no reason, and then of course you see her all translucent again, and then you're like, oh, there's the big setup. And then that doesn't really go anywhere either, because it's like, no, this is, it's the whole trust thing.
No, I wasn't.
So I liked that aspect of it. So I think I kind of went into it expecting that.
Well, based on what we've seen for Christmases in the past, where it's been the disaster movie, or it's been very heavily
some big
Christmas,
yeah.
Or last year's superhero extravaganza. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, because anytime you get more than one doctor, that's the focus. If you write it well, that should be the focus. It should be about the character and not about the plot, regardless of what plot's going on. It could be two doctors reading a phone book, and I'd be sitting there going, yeah, cool. So I didn't know that I expected that necessarily, but it just wasn't what I wanted. And maybe that's a very unfair thing to say, because it's a farewell. It's a celebration of Capaldi and everything that has come and his run. And it went and it did its thing, and I was fine with that. But there were just these little things. The way the First Doctor was written.
So the focus on calling out of the sexism was rather uncomfortable for a lot of it.
That's my only complaint with it.
I understand why they were doing it, to recognize the fact that there was sexism in the 60s when these episodes were written, and the First Doctor at times has been rather sexist.
And I appreciated the meta of it, the meta element of it, the fact that they were calling out, that they were doing it.
Once would have been fine.
Exactly. I don't think they had to continue on with it. Yeah.
The first time would have been enough about mentioning it's dusty in here. Obviously, Polly's not here, and chastising him, and then him stopping.
Please,
that would have been a fine.
Don't ever say that again.
Sarah asked mid-episode, once Bill shows up, if the First Doctor was a racist. She didn't pick up on the sexism aspect of it earlier on. It was just when Bill showed up, she thought, that's a race thing.
Well, I didn't wonder if there wasn't
I was
double edge to that.
I was sort of glad that they didn't go so much there with the racism thing, because it's no secret that Hartnell, he wasn't a racist, but he did have those racist inclinations, as a lot of people did at the time, unfortunately. So I was kind of glad they didn't go there, because I think that would have been less of a statement on 60s Doctor Who and more of a statement on Hartnell. And I didn't want that to happen. And so I'm kind of glad they didn't go there. But then they did carry on that sexism thing with the fact that, she's making the point that, when they're saying, I'm talking about some sexist remark about knowing women, and she's, well, I do too.
I like how she put them in their place.
She sort of did. But I just kind of felt like those elements maybe were just a little bit too heavy-handed, or there was too much of those. But that was really my biggest complaint about it. That and one other thing, which I will come to and mention.
Like you guys said, if it had been once or maybe even twice where Bill had gotten in on the action, because I loved the reaction that she and Capaldi share outside the TARDIS when he's like, "Can we just agree never to talk about this again?" And she says, "No, I want to talk about it lots. I hope we're laughing about it years from now." And you realize that she's flipped the table on him.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a really fantastic moment. And in my mind, it was worth putting up with one of those comments to get that moment.
Sure. I would agree with that.
But the constant non-ending, it really made the First Doctor kind of unlikable. And I've seen these episodes. I know that there is sexism that's going on in the time frame. We've made the comments and jokes and the unfairness of the fact that Polly's getting coffee or so-and-so's off doing this. But there was more to it than that.
Yeah.
And because it's a product of the time, the change happened slowly. Mm-hmm. But it did happen.
Right.
So I don't know that we necessarily needed to call out that particular aspect of it.
We don't have to drive home the point that we've...
Right. Yeah. And I felt like they really, 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 really did. Coupled with that is... I think I know what your other thing is, so I'll hold off on that. But the end. So we're dealing with the First Doctor. Just I don't know that I want to go on, and Capaldi. I just don't know that I want to go on. But the solution for the First Doctor is, well, you have to, because all these other doctors are not going to get to do what they do if you quit. Oh, okay.
Well, I think
why doesn't that work for what's good for the goose should be good for the gander? Why doesn't that work for the 12th Doctor?
I think it's more complex than that. I think the First Doctor is it's his first regeneration. He doesn't kind of know what's going to happen.
He's scared.
He's afraid, as he admits. And I think it's more complex than all these other doctors. It's reassurance to him that he's still going to be him throughout his life.
It's because you have point A and point B there at the same time. If you had point A, point B, and point C, then I think that you could have applied that to, well, what's good enough for the goose is good enough for the gander as well. And I think that Capaldi kind of gets that his own message to the first Doctor eventually too, and that's why he chooses to go on. However, I think that, as Keith's saying, I think it's a little more complex than just saying these guys wouldn't be able to do their things. It's more of a, this is the man you become.
Well, but that's what it boils down to, is that you don't have the option of just deciding not to do it, because you will create a paradox that's going to destroy everything as we know it, because all of these other people have come since you. All these other people have saved planets and been wonderful. And they kind of drive that home through the whole thing, but where the Doctor is learning with the memories of all these other people. That there's going to be more than this. And so for the 12th Doctor to then stand there very sanctimoniously and say, you have to continue, and this is important for you to do this, and then give this speech about my life as an empty battlefield and nobody's left standing. It's like, get over yourself. I mean, I understand where they were going. I understand why they were pushing that. But it just felt like this is the wrong argument to try and make with that. If you're going to bring back the first Doctor, and your argument for him to continue is this, you don't get to stand on the shoulders of that argument and then complain that everybody you know is gone. It just doesn't work for me, because you're going to continue.
Well, I think the weight of the years between the two, though.
Yeah, I think he does, because he's earned it. The first Doctor hasn't earned it. The 12th Doctor has earned this,
and that was the one comment that
the right to make that statement.
When he finally very quietly says, "Don't I deserve a rest?" Yeah. Okay, that one I'll give you. That one, yes, absolutely, because you do deserve it. But everything that came before it was just kind of like, it's grandstanding. It just felt very forced and very...
Well, that was to get the episode.
Yeah, but I think that was my problem with it, is it just didn't... There was so much of the good, but then so much of the... I don't see where this is... You're not...
I didn't have any problem with that.
I didn't have any problem with
that. You're not playing to the strengths of the character in my mind at that point. So
my other problem with the episode, which, aside from the sexism stuff, isn't so much a problem with the episode, is more of how it ties back to the end of Series 10. So I was on record at the end of Series 10 of how I thought they should have just killed Bill and not had her saved by Heather. And this does not prove to me any way that they shouldn't have done that again. No. There's no reason they couldn't have actually had her sacrifice herself for these people she barely knew, so they could live, and then her memories be uploaded, and she'd still have this happy ending without... They completely glossed over the Heather saving, and there was no point to that aspect of it at all.
I think that comes from what Sean was pointing out you were pointing out earlier, that Moffat kind of went into this with I didn't really intend to go this far with the episode. I think that was his...
Do the story.
Yeah, that was his finale, I think. And I think he probably had a lot of that crafted by the time he got to the end of Series 10. And so I think this one, he had to kind of throw away... He probably didn't have to. If he would have tried, he could have tied it. But I think he kind of had to throw that away in order to tell a different story.
Yeah. Bill wasn't in it originally. The original draft of the Christmas special didn't feature Bill at all. So that was an evolution. Now, who knows if that was just a natural evolution out of the way it was written, or if that was maybe the BBC requesting something, or I don't know. But
I think what would have
originally she wasn't
worked
there,
better was, instead of having Bill come back, I think having Carol Ann Ford come back.
That would have been fantastic.
Play Susan again. I think that would have worked.
That would have worked really much better, especially because you're bringing the first Doctor back.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
although then it wouldn't have the... I guess it would still have the impact on 12.
The armistice bit...
I loved that.
Was fantastic.
The best part of this episode.
That is one of my favorite things about history. I could listen to and read about that all day long, about that moment in history that has never happened again.
Yeah.
And for that to be shown to me on film, portrayed in an episode of anything, I love that.
It held a special sit up and pay attention moment for us since we just came back from the World War. Even Mel was like, we just read about that. And, so it had that extra import.
When they started singing the Silent Night, because you really have no indication of what day this is, even knowing that we're watching the Christmas special, and me thinking earlier on, I wonder how this is going to tie into Christmas, if it does in any way. Even thinking that earlier, it wasn't until they start singing Silent Night, and I went, and of course my family, who are oblivious, go, what? Because they think I'm gasping over another meta issue because I was through this whole episode. But they go, what? And I said, oh, this really happened. And Caitlin goes, what are you talking about? I said, no, this really happened. This is an actual event. They for one day on Christmas, they came out of the trenches. I'm explaining it to her before it happens. Not even thinking they're just going to show it to her anyway. But I said, this really happened. Coming out. And I started explaining it to her. I said, well, and then I see him coming out of the trenches. I was like, okay, well, just watch. And then we talked about it afterward. I said, this is like one of my favorite things about history. Is this is a moment in time that happened. So I'm that happening. I was so ecstatic about it.
That moment crystallizes so much about why I watch Doctor Who, for the potential of humanity and the stuff that the Doctor sees in us. It's all boiled down to that Christmas armistice. Is just like, you know what, this sucks. Let's go play soccer. Okay, why can't we have more of that in real life? I don't know, but so that moment was up here. I mean, it was just above board. Phenomenally awesome.
Yeah, it was neat.
I'm with Keith. I felt when Clara showed up, I'll be honest, my first reaction was, of course you're here. But then he got his memories back, and it became oh yeah, I kind of forgot you don't remember her.
Yeah,
that's very sweet. And then she was gone. I'm like, okay.
That's just it. It was the right amount, and it was the nice touch.
Amelia was.
Yeah. But then I got soured on it. Because I thought to myself, well, this is the same thing that he did with Matt Smith, is we brought everybody back as a companion. There's young Amy running around thing, and then here's Amy. We didn't know she was going to show up, and it was this beautiful, poignant moment. And now we're carbon copying that and laying it on with Capaldi, and it just doesn't feel as genuine.
See, I disagree, because I think it worked in the fact that they did that and before with 11 and Amelia, but this one, if they hadn't given him
the memories,
exactly,
it would have been different.
That's just it. If he hadn't forgotten Clara and then gotten that memory, was rewarded by that memory coming back, then I would have had an issue with it. And I would have thought the same thing. But just having that little element to it, it worked for me.
And what was also so great about it was Bill throughout the entire time saying how she's real and her memories are what make her. That's the best way to prove to the Doctor that the memories are so important, because now he remembers all of those, everything he had forgotten, and that makes him realize, oh, okay, yeah, she's right.
Yep.
Which almost felt underplayed for as big as a moment that probably should have been, but I don't know.
I felt like his final speech was a lot of Moffat trying to give a message to Chibnall of what to do with the Doctor moving forward, like reminders of here's who the Doctor should be, like even not just towards Chibnall but any future showrunner. It felt as like opposed to Matt's farewell, where
you didn't like that, or you?
I'm on the fence.
I thought it was very in character with the 12th Doctor.
I thought, it was in character with.
In
my
opinion, he's teaching.
I loved it.
Which is cool. It was a little long.
Oh,
a little.
He could have got another 10 minutes. I'd have been riveted. I was riveted at that whole scene, and beyond that scene.
Does anybody think this is kind of a weird side note? I want to mention before I forget, though, the whole episode was beautifully directed.
Yeah,
Rachel Taylor did an outstanding job.
Yep.
Every scene, every shot,
especially the shots of Capaldi at the end on that battlefield with the sunset was just absolutely gorgeous.
The whole battlefield stuff was. How do you make a World War I battlefield look good? She did.
She did it. Yeah.
I saw somebody comment on this after I saw it the first time, and I thought, oh yeah. So I looked for it the second time. Even though we said goodbye at the end of the season, which was earlier this year, and then we had 6 months, 7 months to wait before Christmas.
Probably not even that long.
Not even that long, like 4 months.
Capaldi looks like he's aged 5 years between the end of the season and now. And I don't know if it was makeup or lighting or what, but it's specifically at the very end in the
hair's
TARDIS.
longer.
Well, his hair's been from day one. He's just kind of
Well,
like...
that-
no. But
That battlefield after everyone's gone and him sitting there huddled down
Yeah.
before Bill comes up.
Yeah.
He does look old.
Oh, he does
just-
look old there.
He
Yeah.
just looks... I mean...
But yes, but I thought that they did a nice job of from the beginning of the last episode. I can't remember what the name of the last episode
Rolled
was.
Enough in Time.
Rolled
Rolled Enough in Time. He has the shorter hair and kind of the more youthful jaunt to himself. And there in that last sequence, the hair gets longer. And because I felt at that time they were giving the impression that he was not that he was like because of the regeneration, but because he had traveled or had gone somewhere or was, spent a long time staving off this regeneration. And that's why when he comes out of the TARDIS at the end, his hair's... Because even at the beginning of that, the previous episode of that, the hair's long, and then we go to the short hair while they're on the Mondasian ship. And then at the end, it's long again.
I don't think you can call his hair short during that sequence.
Well, shorter. But it's remarkable. If you go back and watch, it's remarkably longer. And that's why I always kind of got the impression that he spent a long time before he landed in Antarctica trying to stave off that regeneration. Now I sort of feel that it's because of the regeneration is why maybe he started looking older and the hair was longer. But even at that point, of course, I think they must have filmed that part close to when they were getting ready to film the Christmas special, because they shot that quite early as well. So,
but again, I'm not taking away from Capaldi, but he just I hurt watching that sequence because it was a big emotional thing. But he looked so frail, almost.
He totally sold himself as older, even in his acting, and tired and ready for a rest.
I wondered if maybe that was that was an acting choice.
Yeah, I wonder if it was psychological or if it was. I didn't know if anybody else had noticed it. So. That maybe it was makeup or prosthetics.
I didn't notice any makeup.
Oh no, I don't think it was prosthetics.
Definitely no prosthetics.
I think probably, if anything, it was a tone down of the makeup. I think we probably saw Capaldi more of his age and look. They probably do him up to make him look just a little bit younger with the makeup when he was shooting the episodes, and then this particular one, they backed off on it to make him look older and more weathered. But I think you're seeing, because if you look at him in interviews, I think he looks a lot older than he does when he's playing the Doctor. If you watch interviews of anything he's done, or when he shoots the little taglines for the Doctor Who YouTube channel, I always look at him and think, oh, he looks a lot older in real life than he does in the episodes. And so I wonder if maybe it was just a backing off of the makeup in order to maybe make him look closer to his actual age.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I didn't notice it, but that you say that now, I see that. I can remember that and recall that, but it didn't stand out to me at the time. It just
kind of added that layer of. Dude's had it rough. We're ready for that. So,
let's talk.
But the end speech, I was surprised that it felt more like it was coming from Moffat as opposed to Peter.
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't feel like Peter was saying goodbye as much as it felt like Moffat was saying goodbye in the end speech, which was a pretty good speech. But I was just really kind of surprised by it.
If I hadn't felt like it was so much in character for the 12th Doctor, I might have felt the same thing. But to me, it was. I kind of thought I felt like it was a meld of both.
All right.
Let's talk about Jodie Whittaker. I'm so
fantastic and brief.
Jodie Whittaker.
Bit reminiscent of the end of In the Time.
It was a bit, yeah.
Aside from falling out of the TARDIS, I loved the touch. I loved how they shot the entire sequence.
Well, I also liked that there wasn't
glimpses of her at first, and then you see the ring fall off right away. That was really cool.
Well, I like her pulling the monitor around and getting the reflection.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah,
that ring broke me.
I thought there were
ring fell off.
That was Capaldi's version of the tie.
Exactly. That was the final moment where it was like gone.
I thought there were elements of End of Time regeneration, but I didn't feel like there was any humor in this, which I thought was
no,
good. Because the last few regenerations we've had, there's been the quippy line,
Yeah, all of them. I mean, ever since Tennant.
Although I thought Jodie Whittaker completely sold the change by just her looking so elated with herself and the new, it almost. the way she portrays it, it gave so much hope and energy to the series just from her performance. The way her realization and the way she smiles when she realizes what it has happened, and I think she realizes the change of what's happened, and just the look of excitement and the enthusiastically punching that button, only for the TARDIS to start going and start going into meltdown and throwing her out the door. Which I really think that's the TARDIS rejecting her. I think it might be a statement on, is there something wrong here? Maybe the TARDIS not recognizing the gender change right away and almost rejecting her, almost in a jealousy type situation. And so I may be wrong. I may be way presuming something, and I don't want to set myself up for them not to go somewhere with it in that direction. But I think that would be an interesting start to have, instead of a companion who, like Clara, being a little put off by the fact that this guy you've just known for a long time or even Rose, to that matter, regenerated into somebody completely different, but now turning it and having the TARDIS get a little jealous and go, wait a minute, this isn't who I am.
I'd go one step further. I feel like that would justify that sequence.
No, it could. It could.
Because...
unless it was just trying to dump her out to save her life.
Well, and they may go that route as well. I think they're going to reveal... I really have faith in the fact that I think Chibnall will reveal why that situation happened.
Do we know, was this handled the same way that previous handoffs have been done?
I don't know.
Moffat wrote all the way up to here?
Chibnall wrote that entire regeneration scene.
Okay, so then he's got a plan for it, I hope.
Yeah,
it seemed weird to me, and I've already seen the jokes. I've already seen people making the comments about, well, that's what happens when you let a woman drive. And it's like, really? It's been 4 seconds.
You shouldn't look at those comments.
Yeah, no, I
just avoid those comments.
Those comments anger me. But on the other hand, I feel like, okay, we've already had this. There's a piece of fandom that does not want this change, and is this the best method to go? Here it is. Oh, and then we push a button, and the TARDIS flips out and throws her out the door. That seems like a weird.
No, I think it's actually the right move. I think it's going to do the opposite of what you think. I
hope so.
I think it's going to prove to all the people who are naysayers why it's okay to have a woman as a doctor.
Yeah, okay. I would agree.
I hope so, but it felt weird that it's like the very, because it comes across as very first thing this doctor does is make a mistake. That's what it felt like, and I don't think that's what they intended.
No, I don't think that's what happened.
I don't think that's what happened either.
No,
but
I have a feeling it's going to come across a lot like Capaldi's first episode, where it's telling us it's okay that this doctor has changed and is different and is not the same person you knew and loved, and it is now a woman. I think they're going to probably go along that route. Granted, just a different path to get there, but kind of the same destination.
It'll be interesting to see if it's told better, because one of the things that we complained about with Deep Breath was Clara shouldn't have this issue.
Well, right. I think it will be.
So, without a companion in that role, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well,
I was excited.
The TARDIS shouldn't have that issue either. Then.
Which might be the TARDIS playing surrogate in that situation as well. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm excited to see how it plays out. I was thrilled to see Jodie officially, finally, there.
Me too. I'm so excited. So excited. Yep.
Yeah.
To me, that regeneration hit the ground running. Just the way she sold it, it was perfect. So.
Anything else on it?
Wow, I'm usually the one doing that.
No, I mean, I
think that's everything. I think we covered everying in it.
I could go on and talk about other things that I liked, but I could also talk about other things that I didn't like.
If we switch positions and I go, well, I could come up with something else to talk about. No.
I mean, I could keep going. I don't want to sour everybody.
Sean, what do we got coming on this schedule?
Coming up on the schedule, our last Friday night Who of the Year is a proper Christmas special. We were going to watch The Runaway Bride.
What makes it a proper?
Well, because we did World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls for Christmas.
I got you.
So we didn't do a Christmas special.
I got you.
Now we're going to do a Christmas special.
Because it was the 22nd.
But it would have been the one for Christmas, Keith. Stick with me here.
Yeah, but now it's after Christmas, so it doesn't feel like Christmas, and it won't feel like a Christmas special now. So
It's still a holiday.
you mucked it all up.
He wanted to get World Enough in Time in before.
I know.
And I'm so glad that I did, going back and rewatching that and leading up to this one.
It didn't need it at all.
No,
They didn't touch
Bill stuff.
They didn't touch the Mondasian Cybermen.
No,
They didn't
just
touch
Bill.
This show-
Bill. That's it.
This episode could have been all by itself without having any sort of lead up whatsoever.
You could have.
I didn't expect it to.
It could
I
have,
thought there
but
would be more
I
time.
feel like I was happy going into it because I felt like it gave a nice baseline for where we had just come and why the Doctor is angry and trying to stave off regeneration and just end it. And I feel like there's a really nice double parallel between the fact that he just faced off with Mondasian and Cybermen.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
As did the first Doctor.
But
so
I
when
think-
we get that extended sequence
but-
at the beginning, it was like, this was really familiar.
I agree, but I think that we needed to have done 10th Planet a lot nearer this too in order for that.
Yeah, but
to
we've done
work.
that one a lot recently. So
We did that when we did World Enough in Time.
Oh, we did do that one, didn't we? Yeah.
for
Friday night.
a DVD that's only been available the last
2 years.
2 or 3 years,
Yeah, something
we've
like
done it like 4 times for Friday Night.
Have we really?
Because it's
Yeah.
so good.
Because it's a good one. So
That's good.
anyway, Runaway Bride is this week's selection for the last one of the year, and then our show next week we will be discussing speaking of the Brig, back to the Brigverse with Havoc Files 4.
It's the extended unit verse.
Sure.
Not the Brig verse anymore. The extended unit verse.
Unit first.
And someday it'll just be known as Legends. But yes, Havoc Files 4, so the collection of short stories that has come out, we will be reviewing those. And obviously, again, we've already reviewed a handful of those stories on the podcast, so we will be kind of skipping around the book a little bit and covering the ones we haven't yet reviewed, and probably just a cursory glance over of the other ones. Beyond that, 2018, nothing official.
By the time we record,
Yet.
by the time we record our next episode, it will likely be the new year. So happy New Year to our listeners,
Yeah.
and I hope it's a good one. And we look forward to a joyous and prosperous 2018. Is that going to do it?
I think so.
If
think
so,
so.
until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.